Look, in today's day and age, it's very easy to start a business. The opportunities are endless, but those opportunities could be your biggest weakness without you even realizing it. And that's exactly what we're talking about in this episode. So keep listening. Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready, because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Today's episode is going to be around commitment. And I know it's not a very sexy word, and it's not a topic that most people go like, I just want to learn how to be committed, but it is absolutely vital to your business. And I'm just going to start this off strong. And I'm going to tell you guys, you might, if you listen to this entire episode, you might find a lot of truth in what I'm saying, and you might find yourself doing a lot of what I'm saying, but this isn't a time to put the guards up, be offended, feel bad, like go into victim mode. It's a time to recognize, are you actually committed or are you not? And if you haven't had the results that you wanted inside your business, there hasn't been much change inside your business for the last 6 months, you might not be as committed as you think you are. And I'm just going to come out and say it right now that failing business owners, like failing local business owners, are way more committed to their business than 95% of online business owners. I'm going to say that again. Almost all failing local business owners are more committed to their business than 95% of online business owners, and that might be you. Why? They had to take out a lease. They had likely got a business loan. They likely had to hire employees. They likely had to buy equipment, get a remodel done inside of their place, buy inventory. They had to do all of this stuff, which puts them in a big financial hole. They either took out a loan or they paid with their own money to make sure that happens. And you as an online business owner don't have to do any of that. They are committed. If it dies, their revenue, their livelihood, the loan that they took out dies. Everything dies if the business doesn't commit, if the business doesn't work. And as an online business owner, just to be quite frank with you, a lot of you just put out a couple posts on Instagram, do a couple videos, didn't cost you any money. You're not willing to invest in yourselves. You're not willing to do the things that these failing local businesses did because you're not committed to it. You're not committed to the business. Until you have the level of commitment that they had to your business, you're likely not going to see the change. You're likely not going to see the results because the level of commitment isn't there. And we see that in online businesses all the time. People barely try and they call it an effort, and then they don't get the results and they wonder why they don't have the results. It's because you're not freaking committed. I heard this story, and you might have heard this story, and it was a popular YouTube video where this guy ran into a billionaire, and this is all a fiction story. So it's just this guy walks into a billionaire and says, I want to learn what it is that you did to become successful. And he said, great. You want to be successful? And he says, yes, I want to be successful. And he says, you really want to be successful? He says, yes, I really want to be successful. And he says, meet me down at the beach at 4 a.m. And he says, 4 a.m? Why do I have to meet you down at the beach? And he says, do you want to be successful or not? He says, yes, I do. He said, meet me down at the beach at 4 a.m. So the next day at 4 a.m, he walks down to the beach and meets the mentor at the beach. And he says, get in the water. He says, why do I have to get in the water? And he says, do you want to be successful or not? Get in the water. And so he walks into the water, and the mentor follows him. And then all of a sudden the mentor grabs his head and shoves it underneath the water, and is holding him underneath the water. And he's fighting and he's kicking and he's trying to stand up, and he's almost out of breath, and he feels like he's going to die. And he comes up out of the water and he says, why did you do that? What does this have to do with being successful? And he says, when you were under the water and I was holding you in, what was the one thing you wanted to do? And he said, I wanted to breathe. I wanted to live. And he said, and how big was that desire? And he said, I wanted it more than anything in the world. What were you willing to do? I was willing to do anything to get one more breath. And he says, until you have that level of commitment to take that breath and you apply that same level of commitment to your business, then you're never going to see success. And if you don't want success in your business to the level of being under the water and wanting to take a breath, it's going to be a very hard path for you. It's going to be a very long path. It's going to be a very long journey because you're not willing to do the things that you need to do in order to see success. You're not willing to take out a loan. You're not willing to lose the things that you have. You're not willing to invest. You're not willing to hire the team. You're not willing to put out a video because you're afraid of what people are going to say about it. You're not willing to do a lot of things, and it takes you a long time to do those things. But guess what? A failing local business owner, although they might be failing, has already made that commitment. They've already done the one thing that you haven't done yet. It's got their level of commitment to a level where it's do or die. And again, this might be really harsh and kind of a wake-up call for a lot of you guys. But again, we work with so many entrepreneurs, especially online entrepreneurs, that I see it time and time again. Sometimes getting an online entrepreneur to put out a single video is like pulling teeth. And I just like bang my head against the wall sometimes. And like, how bad do you actually want this? Because you can't put in a minimum effort and expect maximum results or results that 1% of people get. And we have we have a run rate of being a multi-million-dollar company this year. And in the online space, that's the top 1%. And I've done things that 99% of online entrepreneurs won't do. And I've probably done things that 99% of you haven't done yet. You know, things like put myself into $40,000 worth of debt. I've moved in with my in-laws at the age of, I was married and I moved back in with my in-laws. We actually had our first child while still living with our in-laws. A lot of people aren't willing to do that. I was willing to do that in order to grow my business. Now, remember again, everything that I teach you guys always comes from experience. And so I use my experience, and this is in no way saying I'm better or worse. I'm just showing you examples of when I was committed to get to where we are. And I've done a lot of things. I've hired, and you guys all know my story. If you've been listening for any amount of time, you know that I've hired Taylor before. It made financial sense. I had Matt fly out from across the country, and that even then to pay what he needed was still kind of a stretch. We've killed off brands. I've just done a lot of things because I'm committed to making the business work. It's what I want. It's my life. You know, I think I'm so committed to the business. I don't think there's anything that I won't do for it other than obviously like hurting someone or something illegal, or sacrificing my family. Like those are the two things that I probably won't do, but anything else I am willing to do. I'm willing to try. I'm willing to sacrifice. And a lot of the reasons why this comes up is I truly believe that we have so many opportunities right now. I believe that there's so many opportunities to make money, to make income, to find happiness, to make money off of a passion. There's so many opportunities right now, and there's only going to be more and more as we move forward through life. And I think it's an amazing thing. It's something to be so grateful for. It's something to be so happy about. And it's something that our kids get to enjoy. If we can teach our kids and show our kids that there's these opportunities that exist, they don't have to be trapped in a 9-to-5 that they hate. They don't have to be trapped in a job they hate. They don't have to do things that they don't want to do. They can literally make money by doing things that they love, that they're passionate about. And I believe that if that happens, that's how we better the world. That's how consciousness gets raised. That's how we can operate with a higher vibration. Can you imagine what would happen in this planet if everyone just was happy every single day? Like no one had those Sunday jitters where your Sunday's ruined because you know you have to go to work on a Monday. Like that's just gone. How much happier everyone would be. And look, there's so many opportunities. You guys can make money off of YouTube channels and AdSense. You can do affiliate marketing. You can sell other people's products. You can sell your own stuff. You can create anything and sell it on like Etsy. I mean, I've heard of people making $200,000 a year driving Uber. They love talking to people. And I remember hearing that, actually, this is really funny. I read this article one time of this Uber driver who would drive Uber and he loved talking to people. So he would wake up excited every day. He gets to talk to all these people, but he was also a jewelry maker. And what he did is he put all of his jewelry, necklaces, bracelets on a case in the front of his car and in the back. So he got to talk to people all day long, but then he got to sell his jewelry at the exact same time. People would ask, what's all this jewelry? And he would sell to his Uber clients. And he made $200,000 a year and he loved it. So there's so many opportunities and things available. You make money off of Airbnb now. You can create your own courses, your own programs. You can, if you have a skill or a trade, you can teach it to people. You can offer it as a service. The awareness of all of this opportunity is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. But because of this opportunity, because of how easy it is, it lets people off the hook because there's nothing there that they have to sacrifice. There's nothing that is on the line, meaning that you could be like, oh, cool, I want to make a living off of YouTube. And you could start putting out YouTube videos and then it doesn't work for a month. Well, you start to lose the focus. You start to not do it as much. You start to focus on other things or look for another opportunity or shiny object syndrome because there's nothing on the line. It didn't cost you anything. You didn't have to take out a loan. Maybe you bought $1,000 camera or whatever it is, or maybe just use your phone. There's nothing on the line for you. And so unless you're actually committed, it's not going to work out. And when I say committed, it's like the story I told you at the beginning of the podcast episode. If your commitment level isn't as strong as that guy who just wanted to live when he was being held under the water, then you're going to have a really tough time building a business because it takes time. You got to learn. You got to put things out there. You got to try. You got to test. You got to tweak. What you start with will never be what you end with. And that takes commitment. And for me, when I started my business, I knew to my core that I wanted to be a business owner. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I did not want to work a 9-to-5. And I do have to admit, back then when I was working a 9-to-5, even though I was working for my dad's company, it was still pretty easy. I got time off kind of when I wanted it. I could make up my own schedule. But this idea that 2 weeks was all I had every year to myself to do what I wanted, 2 weeks of vacation time to go do what I want. That was a non-negotiable. That was like, heck, that there's no way. There's heck no am I going to have that. So we're pretty flexible here with my team, and we'll continue to be more flexible because I don't want them to have that too. I want them to have fun and they can go work from whenever they want, or they can go. Like if one of my employees came to me and said, hey, I want to take a 3-week vacation and I'm just going to work remote. I'm like, yeah, cool, go do that. And again, I'm creating a business that based off of what I want and what I value. But the idea here is that I was committed. And I have to tell you guys something. When I started, I view it as a hard time. I view it as, well, I'll just say this. I viewed it as a hard time, although I'm well aware that that's just an interpretation. There's people that had a much worse or harder life than I did at that point. So to them, when I explain what I'm about to explain, they're probably like, that was easy. But for me in that moment, that was hard. So one of the reasons why I was so committed to my business is because I got to experience the other side of what happens if it doesn't happen. So for me, I was basically broke. We were living on our own. I mean, I could barely pay for rent. And I remember working in the garage at night, building websites for people. And I was slinging websites on Craigslist, trying to I would build a website for like $50. That's how bad I needed money. And I ended up realizing, I got to a point where I'm like, we can't even pay our bills. I got to find something. So I got this job at this company that was kind of like Groupon, and they were just starting out, but it was like a localized Groupon. It was just for our area. And I had to walk door to door to sell people into this thing. I had to work out those deals that would be sold locally. And I walked door to door for about 4 weeks for $500 it was either $500 a month or $500 every 2 weeks. And I had to walk door to door. And I actually feel like everyone, if you want to be committed to your business, you should probably go walk door to door, force yourself to do it, selling anything, and knock on at least 100 doors. I really believe that any entrepreneur who wants to be committed should go and do that. Because once you do that, it becomes a lot more easy to become committed because you start to see the other side. You have to see how awful it is. At least for me, I thought it was awful. But what started to happen was I hated it so much that I remember doing it because of survival. And I think that's the thing is if you're not trying to build a business out of survival, you're not in survival mode, what are you committed for? It's kind of like what Tony Robbins, why would you be committed? Tony Robbins has that thing he talks about burning the boats. And I think there was a story or someone in history, and some of you guys are probably going to shout at me as you're listening, where there was a war where it was way back in the day, and they showed up, and then the leader burned the boats and said, there's no way for us to get home. So the only way you're going to live is by winning this war. And so their level of commitment to winning was at an all-time high. It was live or die. And so for me, walking door to door, that was the ultimate thing that I hated. And I remember doing it for like 3 or 4 weeks. And I remember sitting in my car before walking into a business and just questioning everything in my life. Why am I doing this? I had that gut wrenching feeling in the pit of your stomach, like where you just want to cry. You just want to cry. Like, how is this my life? I don't want to do this anymore. And luckily, right then and there, I got a call before I had to walk into that next business because I was at my breaking point. And my boss had called me and said, "We're closing the business down. You're fired." I was like, those were the best words that I could ever hear because I didn't want to quit. I needed the money. So I got my last paycheck. But that experience of walking door to door showed me that I can do it, that everything's going to be fine, that you can sell. But it also showed me this is what you have to do when you don't have money and you hate this. So you better get out there and make sure that whatever you're building effing works, because this is what happens if you don't make it work. And I hated it so much. It made me depressed. I had this feeling in the pit of my stomach. And the worst part about it is I still could barely pay my bills. Like back then, a date for my wife and I was getting a $5 hot and ready at Little Caesars. And if we were lucky, we would get a 2-liter thing of Coke and we would come home and watch a movie online. We would stream a free movie illegally. Don't turn me in, but that's what we did. And that was our date back then. So to have this miserable of an experience and to know that that's what I'm going to have to do and still barely pay my bills was me to find that thing that made me committed. And a lot of you guys probably haven't found that thing to make you committed. And I see it over and over and over again. Now, what's awesome about that too, at the same time, when I finally did say, okay, I'm going to do anything and everything that I can do to make this work, it was right around the same time I believe I met James Wedmore, and I was selling videos and I was doing SEO stuff and I was selling videos for $1,000. And he said, "Go make this work and I'll partner with you." I was so committed to making my business work, hitting the numbers that James needed to be able to partner with him on a product, that I was willing to do anything. I was committed. And I even went back to walking door to door to sell videos. Now, had I not had that experience of walking door to door to sell people into this Groupon thing, this would have been a much different experience. Now, I still hated it. I still didn't like it. I was still scared out of my mind, but I knew that it was a temporary thing. But I knew had I not made this thing work, I would have to go back to working a 9-to-5. I didn't have a college degree, doing something that I didn't want to do. And that, to me, a temporary walking door to door of doing something I've already done before was easy. And by the end of that day, I walked to every restaurant in the city to sell them a video. And I sold one restaurant a video for $1,000. It took me 4 hours and I made $1,000 in 4 hours. At that moment, to me, that was the green light. That was the carrot in front of me going, that was easy. I can do this. And I did and tested and tried everything. And my wife would go to work in the morning and I just stuck my head down to the grinding stone and I did everything. I tried Facebook ads selling these videos. I did webinars. I just didn't stop. It was one thing after another, after another, after another. And I was committed to making it work. And it also helped that my wife got pregnant around then and basically said, if you don't make this thing work, you're going to have to go get a job because we have a kid coming. And obviously you guys know the story. I made it work and I did all of that stuff. But my biggest advantage of when I started the business was I really had nothing to lose except for my truck. The only thing I really had of value at that time was a truck that was paid off. And I freaking loved that truck. I had to sell it eventually because we ended up having more kids and I couldn't fit the kid. We needed 2 cars that had car seats, and I really love that truck. I want to go back and buy it. But anyways, that's the only, and I was willing to sell that truck. I was willing to sell that truck had we needed money to keep the business going. I was willing to do anything and everything because I was actually committed. Just like the failing local business owner, even if they have a failing business, they're way more committed than 95% of online businesses out there right now. Again, I didn't have a lease to pay for. I didn't have a loan to pay back, but I was committed. But I would have signed a lease had I needed to. I would have taken out a loan had I needed to. I would have sold my truck had I needed to. I would have done almost anything that I needed to do to make the business work. And the question to you is, what would you do right now? Would you do any of that if it was required for you to see success? And remember, it's not guaranteed. Would you risk the house you live in right now? Would you risk the car that you have right now? Would you risk getting a hater, being told that you're not right, or whatever else it is? Would you risk losing friends? Where are you on that spectrum? Like, seriously, I want you to ask yourself that. What are you willing to lose right now in order to see success inside of your business? I can tell you right now, the only things that I'm not willing to lose are my family, and I'm not willing to do anything illegal. Those are my two things. That's it. I'm okay losing my house. Like, legit. I am 100% okay if this business fails and I lose my house. Why? Because I know I can rebuild and come back, and I always know that everything ends up being okay. I did get my dream car about 2 years ago. I'm fine losing the dream car. I'm not attached to it. I'm fine having to ride a bike everywhere. I've done that. I'm fine with it. I'm fine losing everything in my life except for my family. And I won't do anything illegal. What are you willing to lose? Like, seriously, are you willing to lose your house? Are you willing to lose the car? Are you willing to lose friends? Are you willing to lose everything that you have? Because if you're not, then you really have to ask yourself, how committed are you really to growing your business? And look, can you build a business with half commitment? Yeah, sure, maybe. I'm sure some people have. But how much faster do you think you're going to be able to build a business when you're fully committed versus halfway committed? And you have to ask yourself, do the results that you have in your life and your business right now, do they stem from a lack of commitment? I don't know about you guys, but one of the podcasts that I really like and I listen to all the time is How I Built This from Guy, I think it's Guy Raz or Riz or something like that. And I suggest you guys all listen to it. And one of the reasons why is he interviews these entrepreneurs who built amazing things. So, the guy who started Sierra Nevada, Sarah Blakely from Spanx is on there. Just the founders of Dropbox and Instagram, like all these people who built these amazing things are on there. And you start to listen to their story and you start to see their level of commitment. You start to see how committed they actually were. And there was one story, I really wish I remember the name of this. And I wish I remember the business, but it was a guy who started a yogurt company. And they continued to lose money year after year after year. And I think they were $6 million in debt after like 5 to 10 years of doing this business. Most people would have just closed up shop and not done that and not taken out the $6 million in debt and all of this stuff. But he went through it. He was committed to making sure that this happened, and he would continue to raise money and ask for more money and to do all of this stuff. And I believe, and again, I know I'm messing up the years, so just go listen to that episode if you guys want to hear. It's on How I Built This. And believe it was like after year 10, they finally started to become profitable, and then it started to thrive and build and build and build. And then they were like a like hundreds of $1 million company, and they sold for hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion. But you start to see his level of commitment. And then you start to realize how committed you are not to your business. And so right now, the biggest benefit that we have is that entrepreneurship is easy. It's a massive opportunity for our kids. It's a massive opportunity for us where you can build an income off of Etsy. You can build an income off of Airbnb. You can create your own products and sell them in your own courses. And it's so liberating and it's so empowering to do that. I remember the first time I put together a full program on my own. It was like my own program. I think it was called Video Funnel Blueprint. And it showed you how to build a funnel off of videos when you put your YouTube videos up there. Designed it all, put it all out there. I did a little video series with it. And it didn't do as well as I wanted it to. And I remember opening up Cart and there's like no sales until I got one sale, like at the end of day number 1 of Cart being open. And then more sales came in as the launch progressed. But I think maybe I did $6,000 off of that launch when I thought I was going to do like 20 or 30. So, a little bummed, but still excited. But I remember when I got the first pay in full, I sold it for $500. And I remember the first pay in full for $500. And to me back then, $500, and it's still $500 is a decent amount of money, but back then $500 was huge. Like that was a lot of money. And I remember sitting there almost uncomfortable that someone paid me $500 for something that I just created out of thin air. And then it hit me. I'm like, this is unbelievable. What a time to be alive where, you know what? I didn't have to risk anything really. I didn't have to risk a lot. I did have to pay for ad spend and stuff like that, but I built most of my audience organically. I didn't have to do anything risky. And I created something out of thin air, and someone literally paid me $500 for something that I made. It was unbelievable. But what I recognized in that moment was that I didn't risk a lot, but it didn't affect my commitment level. And because most of us don't have a lot to risk by starting an online business, we let that reflect our commitment level. And so, although the biggest benefit that we have right now is that entrepreneurship can be easy, there is a lot of opportunity. We have to be able to realize we still need to be committed. And if you really want to build something important and of power, not even power, but impactful, that changes people's lives, that adds value, you have to be committed to that vision. No matter what, you have to be willing to lose things in order to build it. And here's what's ironic is that a lot of people will have these fears of like, I don't want to lose my house. I don't want to lose my house. Oh my God, what if this webinar doesn't work? I'm going to lose my house and I'm putting all this money in there. I'm going to lose my house. Well, when you operate from that thinking and that mindset, you are now being the person. You're not being the business owner who is successful. You're being the business owner who's living in victim mentality, who's in fear, who's in worry. And when you're operating from that, you don't make the decisions or take the actions that you need to take. And that's what all of this stems from, is the actions you take. So when you're in fear and in worry and all of that stuff, the actions you take are not the actions that produce the results that you want. So if you're worried about losing the house, guess who you become? You become the person that takes the actions that lead to a unsuccessful business, which could in return cause you to lose the house. However, not being attached to the house, living in your personal power, being the person who's committed, you start to take the actions of the successful business owner. And you know what happens when you're not worried about losing your house? You don't lose the house because now you're successful. Now you're making the money because you're being the person who sees the results. So what's ironic is when you're not committed because you're worried about losing something, you actually cause that, or you make it way more likely for that thing that you're afraid of to actually happen. It's a vicious cycle. And so yes, we have all these big benefits and we have all of these opportunities, but you need to be very careful to not let those opportunities become your biggest weakness. And a lot of you guys do that. And I see it in all of the students that we work with, where sometimes getting them to post a single video is like pulling teeth, because they're not really committed. They're not really willing to risk what they have. And so the biggest asset I had was I had nothing to lose except for my truck, but I was willing to lose it. And even now, when we go bigger and bigger and bigger, I'm willing to lose the house. I'm willing to go into debt. I'm willing to have to file bankruptcy. I'm willing to just lose it all. And because I'm willing to lose it all, I now become the powerful business owner who doesn't lose it all because I'm operating at the highest level that I need to operate at. So the last thing I'm going to leave you guys with is asking you the one question: what are you willing to lose and what are you willing to do? If I told you today, the only way you're going to be successful, it's not guaranteed, but the only way you're going to do it is to go get a loan, to go get a lease, to sell your car, would you actually do it? And if the answer is no, that should be a pretty big indicator of where your commitment level is inside your business. Remember, I'm not judging. I don't really care. I just want you to be happy and I want you to be successful. And I want you to be committed to your business. And if you don't want it, you realize, shit, I'm not going to be that committed. It's fine. Just be happy. Find a job that you really enjoy. Don't sacrifice your happiness for anything. Not everyone needs to be an entrepreneur. You could go be an employee somewhere and be really happy. Find a job that you love. And that's what I want everyone to do, is to focus on that. But I do hope that this podcast was a wake-up call to some of you guys who keep trying, but aren't really fully committed, and to inspire you guys to find that commitment level you need to operate at inside of your business. Because if you are truly someone who wants to develop messaging that is powerful, that changes the world, that you want to create something that changes the world, you better be committed to it. Otherwise, it's going to be a long, hard journey that may never actually happen. So with that said, hop over to the New Generation Entrepreneur Facebook group. Let me know any breakthroughs that you guys had or realizations about your commitment level that you had. And let me know if this is powerful. Hop over to Instagram, wherever, and just send me a DM, leave us a comment somewhere. I'm very curious to hear if this opened up your eyes a little bit to the level of commitment you might need inside of your business. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested, and thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.